Welcome back to another video. My name is Henrik and today we're going to be looking at the Volkswagen ID.5 in the Pro with the infotainment package. The normal ID.5 is going to start just under 49,000 euros. If you want to get the one with the Pro and the infotainment package that we have right here, it's going to start at 51,207 euros, and our test vehicle here is going to cost you just a small extra price of almost 70,000 euros, which is quite a hefty price. We're going to look at everything that it offers, 0 to 100 test, brake test, and everything that we can do. Competitors for this car are, for instance, an Audi Q4 e-tron Sportback that you have, and you also got a Skoda Enyaq Coupe, which we already had a test review of, and the Kia EV6, which you also did a test review of. Let's actually check out why this car is going to set you back 19,000 euros extra when it comes to the starting price of 51,000 euros. Well, first of all, let's take a look at the front of the design, where you can definitely see it's a very bulky car. It looks big and it feels big, but it actually isn't that big. It's only 4.60 meters long, 1.66 meters tall, and 1.85 meters wide, so actually not that the biggest car, but it just feels really bulky because we have this big freaking front which just looks very wide, big, with a CV value of 0.26, which actually isn't bad considering this big front that you have in here, which goes fairly high up. And you can see we have a couple of extra options. First of all, we have a fairly nice black design in here, which looks good, with a grille in the front where there is some intakes in there, but the side is going to be fake, and these like big kind of arching ways into the middle, which looks fairly good. Better than if it would just go fully through with the black. We also have our optional IQ lights in here. Let me quickly see how much those cost. They come with the Design Package Plus, which is going to cost you 2,950 euros extra. However, these are LED matrix lights, or matrix lights, yeah, that's what I said. But they are fairly nice at night, and they blend everything basically, which is nice. And also oncoming traffic, those are going to be adjusted with the high beam, so they're not going to be blinded by your freaking lights. But you can see we don't have any intakes up here, just a smooth looking front, which looks pretty cool with this daytime running light going all the way through, which is interrupted by the Volkswagen logo in the middle, and also a front camera for a full 360-degree camera. We don't actually have a frunk in here, which is not the nicest thing, but let's actually open this up because it might look at first like you actually have an you have a full combustion engine down there. In my opinion, it doesn't look like an electric vehicle. It looks like a 3-cylinder engine, well, 1.1 liter 3-cylinder engine. But in reality, you just have a normal electrical motor in here with a total of 204 horsepower. You could also optionally get the 299 horsepower if you want to get the GTX model, and 310 newton meters of torque, which is fairly decent, but we're going to check that out a little bit more once we're driving. You also got a top speed of 160 kilometers an hour, as well as a 0 to 100 in 8.4 seconds. Let's actually check if we can get that 0 to 100 done in 8.4 seconds. I did just turn off traction control, and we're also in the sport mode. 0 to 100 in 8.4 seconds. With 204 horsepower is not that much, but let's see, it's more than that guy has on his bike, which looks pretty cool though. And it doesn't have that initial punch that you get from an electric car. I don't even think we're going to be able to reach the 100 here. Oh, we might be able to. Yippee! 8.46, fairly good, fairly close, but we did get a negative slope of 2.1 centimeters. Centimeters are pretty insane. 2.1%, so not the best rate right there, but you can expect to get around 8.4. 8.7 is most likely what you're probably going to get close to. We also got the blue dusk metallic color on here, which is going to cost you another 660 euros extra, which looks fairly cool with the black roof as well. So it's like a dual color, which you get in an S-Class. Also on the side, we have our biggest wheels that you can get on here, which are 21-inch wheels, the Navic wheels. They look fairly good. They also come with an air stop, like liquid form inside of it, which means if you got holes in there up to 5 millimeters, those are going to be automatically like glued up with that liquid, so you can't really get any holes in there. The braking distance that we have on here is also 33.9 meters, which is actually fairly low considering that we have normal brakes on the back and the front and drum brakes on the back, which for this price you might think that you might want to get drum brakes for both sides, and not drum brakes, normal brake disc brakes are for both sides, because 70,000 euros, that's also fairly expensive, but with any electric car, drum brakes are actually not that bad for it. But let's see if we can get that braking distance of 33.9 meters. I mean, that was fairly quick. The brakes are actually fairly good. Let's see what we got. We got 36 meters. Well, that's a little bit longer than I expected. But we did do a test previously, and we did get actually 33 meters, and it always rounds it up. So it was most likely 33 meters, 0.5 or 4.4. So a very good rate for the car. We got 36, but like I said, we did get a previous one of 33 meters, which is good. If we go further to the side, we can see a little couple touches, Pro logo on there. telling you got the Pro logo as well. The Pro logo, the Pro variant. We can also see we do have like the silver touch going all the way through. I would have really liked if that would have been black, because roof in black, that in black, and also the color in blue, black and blue, would have just looked a little bit better in my opinion. Automatically foldable or clappable side mirrors, which are also integrated with the camera down below for, again, 360-degree camera. Those are actually massively big, so we're going to check that out once we're driving. Keyless go in the front and also on the, well, front side, basically, both of them. And these don't actually fold up, so you just press on it with a button in the middle. And that's how they open, they don't fold out, and they integrate a little bit more for that CV value. If we go further to the back, we can again see 21-inch wheels. Those actually cost 1,550 euros extra, which is quite a lot. Then up here, we can also charge our car, which is fairly good because it's on the right side. Most people are used to that. You also have a battery in here, which is 77 kilowatts of usage, kilowatts an hour that you can use, and 82 kilowatts an hour battery, that's how big it is. You're going to be able to charge at 135 kilowatts, which is not that fast, but it's going to get you from 0 to 80% in 29 minutes, which is fairly decent. The combined range that you can get from WLTP is around 480 kilometers. We're going to see if that is actually real and if you are able to get that. When we're looking at the battery consumption, we have a total claimed range of around 480 kilometers. If we go into the main menu here, we can see since we have charged the car, which is 121 kilometers, we've been doing 18.9 kilowatts. That includes a couple of 0 to 100 tests and braking tests. So 18.9 is fairly decent considering 18.3 is claimed. And if we go into the long term, it's 19.6. And if we take a look at this, we did do 122 kilometers. Now we have 260 left. So you're going to be looking at around almost 400 kilometers, which is a little bit less than claimed. And we have optimal conditions when it comes to the temperature and stuff like that. So yeah, a little bit less than what is claimed. And if you're looking at this for a main car, because it is a fairly hefty price, so this is going to be your main car, then that range is not going to be the most optimal, considering that other cars in the same price range give you a lot more distance. So we did just do a charging test from 55 to 80%, and if we look at the rate here, claimed is around 135 kilowatts an hour, but that is usually only available between those 30% up to 50%, and because we did start at 55%, we had an average up to 80 at around 86 kilowatts an hour, or kilowatts, which is okay. It's a decent rate. We did start off with around 94, that's what you get, and then it slowly goes down, and after 80% you're going to be looking at a fairly slow rate. But in 14 minutes we were able to charge around 20.63 kilowatts an hour, which is going to give you a little bit more than 100 kilometers of range, which is fairly decent. But if you want to get that full 135 kilowatts an hour battery charge, you're going to be looking at from that 30% up to 50%. But like they did claim, 0 or 5% up to 80% in around 29 minutes. I think that is fairly doable and a fairly decent rate. And let's go further onto the back, where we can see we do also have our lights on here, which are these 3D LED lights, which actually look pretty cool. When you turn on the car, we'll put the clip on there. At night, these like build up, which looks pretty cool. But those are going to cost you extra with that Design Plus package that comes with those. You can see they also go all the way through, which looks pretty good. Just interrupted again by the Volkswagen logo, just like in the front. On here we also have this fairly big spoiler, which really interrupts your view out the back when you look out the rear view window. But the rear view window is actually fairly big. Really depends on if you like this design. I think it just doesn't fit that nicely. They could have just removed it, in my opinion. On the back we can see ID.5 and also the Volkswagen logo is in white, not in black or anything like that. And a lot of like plastic down here, and you can listen to it, come a little bit closer in. Well, you can't listen, you can just see it a little bit. Quality in there, not great at all. Build quality in there is not that greatest, and it's also fairly big. So again, it looks very bulky from the back and just something I don't really like. We also have a towing hitch on there, which is going to be allowing you to tow 1.2 tons. Most electrical vehicles, you're most likely not going to tow anything because the usage of your range, or the fuel usage, or the battery usage, whatever you want to call it, is just going to get depleted a lot. Let's open the trunk, which you can also do via first try. That was amazing. Which you can also do via that, because the trunk in here is actually fairly decent size. 549 liters up to 1,561 liters, which is fairly big, and you can also put your cables down here, which is nice. So you can put both the cables in here. And just some small side note, one of these cables, which is for your outlet at home, is going to cost you 175 euros extra. You don't get that with the car. And the loading lip is actually not that bad because we have this false floor in here. It's going to have a nice even loading space. Well, there's a little lip in here, and also the height is actually fairly decent, not like in a Nissan Juke or a Toyota Aygo X, which is the biggest one I tested so far with the loading height of 80 centimeters. But even though you have like this sloping back, you actually got a fairly decent sized rear trunk, which is nice. And as you can see, you can also flip out the center console to allow you to put lots of skis there, and that's also a big tunnel. So the interior is where most of the extra costs come into play. For instance, we have this brown color in here, which looks fairly bad in my opinion actually, because this thing is also going to cost you 3,545 euros extra because it comes with the Interior Plus Top package, which is the Florence brown color with also the black steering wheel. And I think it's going to cost you 3,545 euros extra. That is insane, considering the quality that you even get in here. If you look at the side, plastic, and also the door handle is also in piano black. That's, in my opinion, one of the stupidest things you could personally do, because you're going to touch that thing every time you exit the car, and that's just going to lead to a lot of scratches and stuff like that. Generally, we do have a lot of piano black in here. Center console's piano black, which actually, in my opinion, you do have a lot of storage space in here. So 2 cup holders in there, 2 more cup holders down there with inductive loading down here as well. And 2 USB-Cs in there, and also a little pass-through passage down there. So you get a ton of storage space in the middle, but it's also the biggest, and you also get these like cool handles for your seat. But these are also the ergo seats, which are going to cost you another extra cost. These have massage functions, memory function, and they're also fairly comfortable to sit in, but again, extra cost. And then the other thing that I'm not the biggest fan of is the infotainment display. Because Volkswagen, first of all, it's a very slow infotainment display. So come a little bit so you can actually see the infotainment display, because this thing is also fairly laggy. Just like in any other Volkswagen, if you go on the map, you can see it's going to take a little bit. And then on here, it is, well, fairly slow. We'll go back to the menu, and you can see everything just takes a while to load, and you can see like, okay, do I really want that? Climate control, everything again is touch sensitive. You don't have physical buttons on there, which is not that nice, and it honestly isn't that easy to use. You do have Apple CarPlay Wireless and Android Auto, which is nice, so most of the time you're just going to plug that in, and that's what you're going to use. There are 2 options in this extra that I would personally pick, however. You do have the infotainment package, which comes with the heads-up display, and this heads-up display is one of the best I've ever seen, because we do have that 3D augmented reality navigation system in there, which is really cool. And we also have the one that's the assist, the travel assists, which are just going to make a lot of stuff easier, because you have a lot of safety features in here, and this car is a very safe car as well. We'll again look at all those things when we're actually driving. But you also got this small little display in here, which again, if you have the heads-up display, that's going to be fairly useless, because this thing, you're not going to look at that a lot. And also the gear selector on here is just not my type, because up there, yeah, it's a little bit more American, but just the integration of it just doesn't look that nice in my opinion. And again, touch-sensitive controls on all of the buttons on the steering wheel, which are also a little bit interesting to use. I'm again not the biggest fan of it, because if you press on there, they have this feedback, and they're just not that easy to use in my opinion. The heads-up display just gives you all the information that you really need. You wouldn't really even need the small little cockpit in here that you have, because you can switch between the views a little bit, but in all honesty, you get all of that relevant information up in there. And also, you do have a 3D augmented reality navigation display in there, which is really cool, so it shows you exactly which road you need to go into. Let's quickly turn that on. And you can see now it also has this like little light bar there, which shows you which way you need to go. And as you can see in the heads-up display, you get that arrow in there right now, which is really cool. And again, like I said, you get all the information that you need in there. Okay, we got to turn right in 20 meters, which is basically the exact same. If you would, for instance, look at this, it doesn't even show on there right now. There we go, now it does. Shows you all the information. This is exactly the same, apart from that you have your consumption and how much battery you have left. And now turn green, so we can see the arrow is going to come a little bit closer to us as soon as we get closer to it, and look at how big it gets. It's really, really nice and easy to use, which just makes maneuvering around cities very easy. Unlike a normal electric cars, you actually have a fairly decent seating position here when it comes to your legs, because normal electric cars, you usually sit in here like that. Because of the floor with the battery in there, the bench is usually a little bit lower. But in here, you actually have a very comfortable ride. Also, a good amount of legroom in here. I'm 1.80 m high. And therefore, you have a good amount of space in here. One thing that's not so nice, though, is the headroom. You can see I'm, like I said, 1.80 m tall, so around 5'11". Headroom here is not that nice because of that sloping roof. you're not going to have much headroom. And you might think because of the panoramic window, you might have a little bit more, but the panoramic window doesn't go far back enough, and therefore you don't have that much room in there. Panoramic window also looks amazing how big that is, and you just have a crystal clear view out of the back, which is wonderful. You also have a fairly comfortable seats in here, just like in the front. These are the ergo seats, which are very comfortable, and isofix points in here also very easy to access, which is nice. And you also have a fairly good center console, which is big, and you have two cup holders in there with one tiny one in the middle. And one thing that is nice that I already showed you a second ago, you can flip out the back, and therefore you can put skis through there, stuff like that, whatever you want to use. And one thing that's also, again, not that nice is that the center console, because it's so low, the air conditioning is all the way down here, and you have two USB-Cs in there, but the air conditioning, you're gonna have to blow that fairly high up and use a fairly good amount of high blowing or fan speed. And it's just not the nicest position because it's so low, it's going to come up at you, which is not that nice. Quality-wise, again, it's Volkswagen, that's all I can say. So quality-wise, they cheaped out a little bit. And again, piano black on the door handle. I don't know why anybody would do that because it's just going to get so dirty after a while. And again, the brown, always up to personal preference. I'm not the biggest fan of it. One thing that is very nice when driving in city, you have a very small turning radius of only 11 meters. It's not that small, but for a car this size, that's a very good turning radius. And the power is definitely enough if you're driving in the city. If you want to get from A to B, then this is obviously going to be enough. 204 horsepower, it's going to give you good initial acceleration. You can overtake people, but it just doesn't give you that performance. But that's most likely not what you're going to be looking at if you're trying to get an ID.5. Maybe a little bit more if you're getting the GTX variant. But it doesn't have that initial punch that you get from an electric car because it does also weigh 2.11 tons, and therefore it's not the lightest car. And with only 204 horsepower, it's not going to be that sporty. It's more of a comfortable acceleration, like in a Volvo V60 with the T8 motor. That was a fairly comfortable acceleration, but that was also a sporty acceleration. If you want some more sportiness in here, you're definitely going to need to get the GTX variant, 299 horsepower, even though I still don't think that's enough horsepower for a car with weighing 2.11 tons. And when driving in the city here, we also have a fairly decent driving experience when it comes to the comfort level from the suspension, because we do have the optional sport package in here, which comes with the DCC, which is the adaptive chassis control, which gives you a little bit of comforting options when it comes to the dampers, because you can choose between them. So we have sport mode, we also have eco mode and comfort mode, which you can see right here, and those all adjust your dampers a little bit. And if you're driving comfort, it's fairly comfortable. You're not going to be having issues when driving over bumps, and just the experience in general is fairly comfortable with the ecos or the ergo seats that we have in here. Just in general, a nice cruising experience. And on top of that, we also get a lot of safety features, for instance, adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist, travel assist, blind spot assistance, which does come with a package that's going to cost you around 2,700 euros extra. But I would recommend that because it's just a lot of stuff that you can adjust. And optionally, I would always recommend getting the heads-up display, because this is, in my opinion, the best heads-up display that I've experienced in any car that we've tested so far. Let's quickly also look at the acceleration a little bit more if we go into the sport mode. It does have a little of a punch, but it's just the 204 horsepower is just not that much, and it's enough for daily usage. But again, a 2.1 ton car, you're not going to be expecting to drive this anywhere close to being sporty. But it's going to allow you to obviously overtake people in the city. It's going to allow you to overtake anyone that you really need to overtake, and just have a smooth experience when driving. When we're driving here at around 100 kilometers, you can hear we do have a little bit of outside noise, but really it's fairly well isolated. And in general, driving experience right now is expensive, I was about to say, fairly good. And if we press on this button right here as well, we can have there it is, travel assist. We'll put it onto set. And then you can also see on the heads-up display, it shows you basically the lanes. And now it's going to do lane centralization. And if we also go up here, we can accelerate it as well. The other thing that is fairly cool is it knows the speed limit up ahead, and then it recuperates before you get to that. We'll see here in a second, it's going to be 80 in seconds, and it's going to show up in the heads-up display and also on the digital cockpit that 80 is in front of us, and then it's going to slow us down to that. Hopefully it does that now. There we go. And now it says 80 in front of us, and it slows you down. So as soon as you reach it, you're going to be at that 80, and just recuperation as well. And it's pretty cool because it's a predictive recuperation, which is fairly nice to have. So what's my final verdict on the ID.5? Well, it's a car that's more based on a comfortable car. It's not supposed to be a sporty variant. If you're looking for something more sporty, then you're obviously going to have to look at a GTX. With all the extras, this car is going to be fairly expensive, but you really don't need all the extras that you get in there. You definitely want to make sure to also look at the opponents or the other cars that you have in the same price range, for instance, the Audi Q4 e-tron Sportback, or also Skoda Enyaq, or the Kia EV6 that we already did a review on the top left corner. You can check that out if you want. So hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. Make sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.